Callie Lawson-Freeman. Can I just say I am so jealous of you because you got to witness yesterday WNBA history live. For the first time, a player scores 1,000 points in a season. And that player is, of course, none other than A'ja Wilson. You got to see it up close and impersonal. I am so jealous of you, Callie. What was that like? Of course, the Aces got the W, they got a win, but the story was A'ja Wilson and her 1,000 points. And I love it. The signs, the GOAT, because it just looked like an amazing, exciting time in that arena yesterday.
It was like you hit the nail on the head. It was an incredible experience. I think being in the building for something like that and just knowing that the fans were expecting history. I feel like I had the same conversation with you when she set the Aces franchise scoring record, like all-time scoring record earlier in the season. But this felt even better than that because I think that there was more of an awareness from the fans at what was at stake. Like they arranged, the community mobilized. They were in Facebook groups saying like, hey, we're showing up in white t-shirts today. We want to support A'ja to get the 1,000 point milestone at home. And so that was just really cool. Before the game even started, just seeing, like, looking around the arena, which was a sold out crowd, the most that the Aces have had at Michelob Ultra Arena, by the way. So that was really cool. And then, like you mentioned, all the signs. But what really stood out to me, and it was like a moment I'll never forget in my life, was when it was late in the fourth quarter, and she only had 2 more points until she reached 1,029 points on the day, and everyone in the arena started like holding up their fingers, like holding up 2 fingers. Aces players on the bench were holding up 2 fingers, and like everybody stood up. Like once the Aces had the ball, she hit that mid-range fadeaway. Like that was just a real moment, and it was so cool to see. And just her reaction afterwards, the way that she was attacked by her teammates once they called that timeout, and like just history, like seeing her wave to the crowd and hearing the MVP chants, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I mean, she was it was really interesting when the moment happened because you could tell it got to a point like they were going for it. They were trying to get it, thankfully. I love seeing like all of these reactions, after the game, the posting in their IG stories. But she was filled with so much emotion, so like she reacted right in the game and moment to it, but then she just locked back in real quick because she had to get
Yes.
back on defense. And
Yeah.
then they finally stopped the game, and her teammates swarmed her. There's that image I saw floating around on social media where they're like, sort of like bowing
Bowing down.
down to her. So I thought that was really great. It was, when you hear the way A'ja, one, talks about her teammates, but the way that they also talk about her in turn, the way other players around the league react to her, there were nonstop tweets yesterday. She's just really special. She's a really special human. And I feel like if everyone is saying the same thing about you, it's probably true. So I was so happy for her, Callie. And you know what? At the same time, she really touched my heart because she gave a very emotional locker room speech after. And in that speech, Callie, she said something that I saw going around on social, and I think it resonated with a lot of Black women. But during her emotional speech, she said, "It's days where I hate being A'ja Wilson. I hate it." And you know what? It probably resonates with a lot of people, but it's because I saw a number of Black women tweeting it, which is why I said it resonated with a number of Black people. Because I'm sure there's times that we all, whether you hate being yourself or whatever it is, the pressures of life. And I don't know why she said that. I would love, or I hope that's something you're going to follow up with A'ja on. But it just touched me because the crown she wears is heavy. The
Yeah.
crown she wears is very heavy. And I felt that was her confirming that for us and showing her vulnerability, which I always respect about A'ja.
Yeah, I mean, that really stood up out to me. I'm over here like trying to tighten up because I think seeing that is just like it's very moving. But yeah, I mean, you're saying like follow up about it, which I absolutely will. But I also think that like Asia has been pretty open about how difficult the season has been without me having to follow up and ask why she said that. Like, I completely understand why she said that because I think from the start of the season, she was being bombarded by a lot of Caitlin Clark fans who were saying like she wasn't marketable and like just really, I feel like attacking probably the body of work that Asia has presented as like the greatest player in the league on the planet is what her teammates and coaches will say. And so I think that that was really tough for her to start. And then it's like they are the back-to-back defending champions. They were very open about there being a target on their backs, and that was hard. Then they were playing without their point guard. They're going through personal stuff, and I have one story coming out that will like kind of I guess back up some of that stuff, not for Asia, but another member of the team. Like they're going through things. I mean, even Kelsey Plum, you that's like you
Right.
public record. She's spoken about
She's
a
recently
divorce.
divorced or
Right.
going through a divorce, right?
Yeah.
People have personal
Yeah.
lives and things happen
Mhm.
in our personal lives.
Right, and they have to work through all that while also trying to be the like trying to strive for something that's not been done since the Houston Comets won the first 4 WNBA championships when the league was just beginning. So I think the reason why I was kind of getting choked up there at the beginning is that you were talking about how Black women can really relate to that, being like, I hate being Asia Wilson or I hate being Callie Lawson-Freeman. Like there are days I think as a Black woman, especially trying to be great, it can be so difficult. I'm sorry. This is so
Don't have to
embarrassing.
apologize. It's not. I think seeing your raw emotion right now is really important, Callie, because people, they don't know what we're experiencing or going through. They see content we put out. They see what you write and they think we're not human. And in general, Black women are often dehumanized anyway, right? That's why that trope, the strong Black woman, I hate that trope. And
Yeah,
it's really a bad trope because it does dehumanize, because it's this idea that we're so strong we can handle anything. So we don't get to be vulnerable. We've
yeah,
talked about this with Angel Reese, right? The moment she opened up and talked about how hard it's been for her, people said she's playing victim. It was disregarded.
yeah,
Her feelings are not regarded. And there was a really great story that came out in the Chicago Tribune the other day that sort of humanized what Angel goes through. And it talked about a moment where, like, she had to walk out of, I want to say it was like the press room where they do their post games. And she told security to wait, there, and that there's too many people out there. There's so many people, right? And recently on her podcast, she mentioned she would prefer to be rich, but not necessarily
not
famous.
famous. Yeah,
And I think that's very notable that she said that. So for someone like Asia, who is the face of the league, the best player in the world at this point, we need to start talking about where she is in the GOAT ladder and the GOAT conversation,
yeah,
right? And to be at this inflection point, if you will,
yeah,
in the league's history, um, where there's so much happening and you're often thrown into it, is a lot. It's a lot. And being the best player on a team, on the best team, one of the top teams, having to be great every single night. Asia Wilson has only had, I believe, 4 games this season where she didn't score 20 points. She's
yeah.
had
That's
no games where she did not score double digits. Of her record that she broke, it was mostly done with twos,
yeah.
right? And getting to the charity stripe, it was not a very large percentage of
Yeah.
threes.
And
That's
just for the record, she has taken less free throws this season than last season, which is crazy because she's scoring at a much higher clip. So
that level of greatness and sustaining it is not easy. And for anybody who wants to try to um, knock her record, let's just be clear, all the records that preceded her, she broke them faster than the time that those players did it in. So this
Yeah.
is not just, oh, she had more games, she had more time. That's not what this is, right? And we're just talking about tallying the number of points that she scored. She's also on track to break the points per game average
Yeah.
record, and that's held by the Diana Taurasi,
Yeah.
right? Who many call the GOAT. And then also, she's going to break the record that was just set by Angel Reese this year for the most rebounds
Season.
in a season. I mean, this is an incredible season. And when we talked about, the fact that she should be the MVP and I think the unanimous MVP, this is
Yeah.
why.
And
So
I just want to say, I was viciously attacked when I said publicly that she should be the unanimous MVP. And I might have called it a little bit too early, but like, I was not wrong. So I think that I hope nobody messes this up. And I just want to note one thing too. You said she's only 3 rebounds away from the record for rebounds in a season. But if just put into context, so she would finish the regular season with the record for rebounds in a game, points in a game, and then also have the most blocked shots in the league this year. That's actually never been done in WNBA history, to lead in all 3 categories like that. It's never even happened in the NBA. So that is unreal. Like, when I talk about unanimous MVP, that should be a no-brainer to me. Like, when we're seeing things that have never been done, will not be done probably for a while ever again. Like, I think that this should be simple. It's not hard.
Well, listen, I have said I appreciated Asia's vulnerability. I appreciate yours right now during this conversation. And we're not going to apologize for the things we said. There's no too early. It's one thing if you're just wrong, you're like, look, I was wrong about that. That's cool. But if you said something with your chest and you're right, we're not apologizing for it. And I say that because there was no need to wait. There was no need to wait. I remember the year that Stephen Curry was having his unanimous season. That was being talked about not at the very end. That was being talked about over the course of the season as it was happening, right? LeBron missed out one year by 1 vote. It was being talked about over the course of the season. We don't have to wait, because when you see that type of season happening in real time, when you see history happening in real time, you know it when you see it, and we can talk about it. I remember early in the year tweeting, the only question about Asia is if she's going to be unanimous. I didn't feel very strongly about whether she was unanimous or not, right? But to me, it felt very agenda driven that there became this brief point in the season where people all of a sudden were trying to push other candidates. And I don't think any of that was real. I think a lot of that was about other things that I'm not going to get into right now because I don't want to take Asia's moment. But for most people who I saw that are voters, they were all just like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Asia is still the MVP. So it's going to be really interesting to see that vote breakdown when it happens. As we know, there was a voter who gave Asia a 4th place vote last year. We don't know if that person or that individual is voting again. And unlike the NBA, votes are not disclosed. But I don't expect this to be close, even if she's not unanimous. I personally cannot see, what justification there is, honestly, to give another player a 1st place vote over her. But to the extent there is someone who gets any, it would probably be Nafisa Collier. Anyone else to me would be ludicrous. But for the season Asia Wilson is having, Nafisa Collier would be the MVP. She's having an incredible season. She has her team in second, in position to even potentially take the 1st seed, even though they most likely won't. She's having an incredible season. So I get that. And that's the way that you acknowledge that season is by making sure Nafisa Collier finishes 2nd place. That's why you have 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. And I feel like this gets lost on people. The way that you acknowledge other great seasons, other MVP level seasons, is by giving those players a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th vote, right? Because at the end of the day, if you didn't have 5 places, if you didn't have 5 options, it's who would be your MVP. And if that answer is Asia Wilson, then no one else should be getting a 1st place vote over her just because.
Right.
And
I think that got lost in the discourse. I think maybe people don't understand how the voting works. I'm so glad that you pointed that out. Like, thank you. Because I think that, like, me saying that Asia is the unanimous MVP, that doesn't mean that nobody else has a case at all. That just means that she has the best case. And it's so clear that everybody should agree. And we should all be on the same page with the first place votes. But yeah, Nafisa, I'm going to give her my second place vote. Absolutely. Absolutely. She's been so important for the Lynx. I mean, that's easily proven by the games that she missed with her plantar fasciitis, I think it was, or tendonitis.
Yeah.
They don't look the same without her.
For sure. Well, listen, shout out to Asia. We were here to give you your flowers. Today, Asia is collecting all the things this season. I mean, she's incredible. And there's not really more that you can say about her. Add this to the list of her accolades and achievements that she will have, which are many. So shout out to Asia Wilson.